Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. In today's video, I'm going to give you my full 2025 update on a blessings tier list. I'm actually going to give you two tier lists in today's video. It's going to probably be pretty long. Give it a thumbs up if you like, leave a comment, share it, all that sort of stuff. I think in the algorithm, I think like commenting and sharing is now more important than liking and subscribing. I don't know. I watched Good Mythical Morning and they changed their catchphrase at the end from like and subscribe to comment and share, and it sounds wrong. I don't know. Anyway, we obviously have the new blessings in here. The nature's ones are like they're relatively new. Stuff has changed up. I'll be doing the tier list for PvE, so you know, dungeons, Hydra, blah blah blah, clan bosses, First City, etc. And then we'll be doing a tier list for PvP, so classic, tag, live, arenas, and siege. So yeah, without any further ado, let's dive. I guess a little bit further ado, actually. D tier is going to be effectively useless or essentially never used. C tier, spoiler, will be the biggest tiers, I think, in both lists. That's going to be niche. So a couple of champions might use them, but they're very rarely seen. B tier is like average. They're okay. A tier is really good. And S tier is absolutely godlike. So we're talking like, you know, polymorph in arena, that sort of thing, okay? So without any further ado, yes, we're now out of ado. All the ado has been used up. Let's go. So Hero Soul. Hero Soul, I think, is the definition of niche. It's not entirely useless. There's a couple of champs that might use it, like an Arix, soloing, Spider Dungeon or something. Mostly good against Spider Dungeon. There's usually better damage blessings most of the time, but it's not useless. Faultless Defense, this is niche as well. I might actually rank this higher. Faultless Defense is also sort of the definition of niche. This one does have a very useful niche, though. It reflects a tiny bit of damage when you place increased defense buffs. Really, the only thing that's useful for, but it's very good for it, is against Fire Knight, because you get hit with those increased defense. If you have a shield, it doesn't work. The damage needs to go through your shield. It needs to damage your HP bar. It will reflect one hit, which actually counts as a hit against the Fire Knight shield. So it's very niche. You'd run that on like Fire Knight Specialist only. Great niche, but it is niche. Soul Reap, I'm a bit conflicted about this one. This one, I almost put it in S, but I decided, no, you know what? We'll save S for like the absolutely insane stuff. Soul Reap is really good, though. I think it's been pretty underrated. This is a classic blessing for max HP damage, like Newt, especially. You kind of need a higher blessing of this, but this is essentially another max HP hit. And with how ridiculous the power creep has been, with, you know, first Acrisia, then Newt, then Marius, etc., these max HP damage dealers are really strong. This one, it's not good against clan bosses, but it's very, very strong for Cursed City and very, very strong for dungeon farming, because you can, again, like one-shot Sand Devil, for instance, a lot easier with this. Life Harvest, I'm going to say this one is essentially useless. I guess it would have maybe a mild use in Cursed City against their revivers, but I'm going to put this into the essentially useless category. Commanding Presence, I'll put this in the B tier. I think this one is just generically okay. This is the epic blessing that makes your aura stronger. It's just okay. It's sort of the definition of okay. It's a very bland blessing. Does the job. It's fine. This is a spicy one. Chainbreaker. I'd also put this into niche. This is the one that gives you a chance to break free from crowd control. I think this does have a place mostly in Chimera, actually. Chimera's got lots of nasty debuffs. This can be a decent one to put on your cleanser, and it's, you know, somewhat useful for Hydra as well. Like when you don't have enough resistance built, it's okay. I think this one it's sort of the definition again of a niche blessing. I think it can be very strong in arena. Put this on a nice, the mythical nice with a big chainbreaker blessing is absolutely terrifying in Form 2. That's probably the best niche use of it. We're talking PvE though here. It's okay against some bosses, preferably against waves you're not getting crowd controlled, but it's okay. Miracle Heal, this is the worst one. I again put this in niche. There's the I forget the name of it actually. Renewal? Maybe is it Renewal? Maybe. The nature version is like a little better. It's off continuous heal. This one's only okay. Your healing will restore destroyed HP. It's honestly so C tier as to almost be D tier. I think it maybe still has a bit of use on like Godseeker for Sand Devil, and that's perhaps important for helping you survive. I'll leave it in C tier for now. This is one that could easily get demoted to D tier if they don't buff it. It's pretty bad, let's be honest. This one, Indomitable Will, maybe? Rubbish. Gives you a chance to resist crowd control, but it's a very low chance. You're really better off just not using it, let's be real. Chainbreaker is a little better. Lightning Cage, again, I'd say is fairly niche. It's only okay. I'd say it's better than, probably better than these. Lightning Breaker, or Lightning Orb, you get orb stacks when enemies get buffs or get turn meter boosts. Again, preferably for most PvE content. It doesn't happen. Now, it does do some max HP damage, which is cool. And it can protect your buffs, which is cool. The main use, usually I'd say, is for a Mischief Tank and Hydra. You know, the Lightning Orbs are an extra buff to help Mischief target you. If you fail your resist against the Mischief, it will give you a chance to protect your buffs. It's okay for that. Is it amazing? No, but it's okay. It's niche. I'd say Intimidating Presence is obviously better than Commanding Presence, but I'd say it's still okay, but nothing too special. You know, a bit more stats. It's fine. This one was reworked. Iron Will. This is almost never used. You take less damage when you've got debuffs on. I basically never see this being used, but I'd say it is probably niche. It's probably not totally useless, but it's close. It's definitely bottom of C tier. Heaven Cast is a B tier for me. Heaven Cast is like the definition of a B tier blessing, I think, in basically every game mode. More damage when you've got buffs. It's not exciting, it's not flashy, but it's a workhorse. It gets the job done. Bit more damage, great. Easy to use, great. But not crazy powerful. Yeah, it's your workhorse blessing. This is like the gold standard for average. Your baseline damage blessing is solid. It's fine. We're actually on to the newer ones now. We got Neutralize. This is very niche. Probably, yeah, something similar to this. Very, very niche. Lets you place debuffs through Poison Cloud. You can't really get more niche than that. It's shocking. I'm saying niche way too much, haven't I? I am. But yeah, place debuff through Poison Cloud. It is good for like HP burners that can't place burn through Poison Cloud and Hydra. It's okay, but really something you're barely ever going to use. This one is decent. I'd actually probably put this in the B tier. This is, let me check the name. I think it's called Renewal. I'm going to check the name here because I don't quite remember. No, it's called Nourish. Good thing I checked. It's called Nourish. It's not called Renewal. I made that blessing up. It doesn't exist. But yeah, your continuous heal. So the nice thing about this compared to Miracle Heal is just you have a chance to restore destroyed max HP. This one has an added benefit where it will just restore. It just does it, but it also makes your heals do more. Up to 30% more healing. That's actually nice. They should probably consider that with the regular Miracle Heal. It's definitely better. It's a good blessing for any continuous healer. They just heal more. In fact, I'm going to put this actually at the top of B. I think it's a really solid blessing. Nothing too crazy, but solid. Now we've got, our first S tier blessing. It's the new one, and it's crazy good. Nature's Wrath. More damage. Permanent damage boost for every debuff that you place up to a cap. Very strong, huge amounts of extra damage. And for most damage dealers, so significant chunk of damage dealers, it is the best damage blessing until, for some fights, 6-star Crushing Rend. This one is insanely powerful. So yeah, don't sleep on it. I would say this one is niche. I put it at the top of niche, though. This is the rare blessing that makes your small debuffs big debuffs, or it gives them a chance to be bigger. This is obviously really good on someone like Kale. It's actually really good on Kale. It turns his small poison on his A1 into a big poison some of the time. Pretty nice for bosses. Now, I would say it's still niche because typically only rare champions have the small version of debuffs. So this is something that's good for your rares, for faction wars, maybe some Doom Tower secret rooms. You barely use rares, to be honest, in Curse City. And this is not a blessing. I mean, there shouldn't be any legendaries with small versions of blessings or mythicals, and epics with small versions of debuffs tend to suck. So yeah, it's very niche. Great for rares, but obviously not for anything past that, and they're only limited use as well. I'm going to put, I like this one, Harmonic Impulse. This gives you a chance to not put your moves on cooldown when you miss them with True Fear, and give you a turn meter boost. This is, again, super niche. I think that both of these blessings are far too niche for sort of Hydra specifically. Anti-Head of Torment in Hydra. I use this on a couple of champs, actually, for one Hydra team, which doesn't have good anti-Torment stuff. And it just means that your team is a bit more consistent. It's very niche, only on specific champions. Possibly there could be some floors in Curse City where there's lots of fears and it might be somewhat okay, but this is a pretty niche blend. You run this on maybe 1 or 2 champs, if any, and that's about it. And it can be nice, it can be okay, but yeah, like I run it on Krisk and Mad Hatter, for example, because they're spamming lots of AoEs. Cracking Roots, effectively useless. Bonus damage to Stone Skin, a buff that does not exist in PvE. Essentially. Phantom Touch, I'm putting this in the A tier. Phantom Touch is great. This is your workhorse rare blessing. Again, it's very good against Fire Knight. It does count as an extra hit against the shield. It's just an extra chunk of damage that scales off your attack. It's a solid single target blessing. Not as good in AoE, but it's just solid. It's a great little blessing. Ward of the Fallen, I put that into the niche category, and I will move it up here, perhaps. I do think that Ward of the Fallen could be quite strong for some solo strategies. I've not seen it used too much, but it should, in theory, be quite strong for solo strategies. You take a lot less damage, basically, though you do need this to be 6-star for it to really work. If it's not 6-star, it's not doing too much. In fact, I'll probably move it a bit lower because of that. This is a blessing that really needs 6-star. And you do have emergency heal. This is the wrong icon. It's the old icon. That's what was in the raid content creator folder. They've not updated it. But yeah, I think it's 6-star, sure. It's great for soloing stuff. But outside of that, probably not. Dark Resolve, I put this in the niche category as well. This is more damage when your teammates are dead. Again, probably fine for some solo content, but it's realistically not going to be used too much. Temporal Chains, again, I put this in niche. I think this can work against Hydra, lowering their speed. I don't know if that's a bug or what. It's okay. We'll move it up here, I suppose. Pretty decent for Curse City as well. Enemies get buffs at high ranks. At 6-star, you can push their turn meter back. It's pretty decent. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll put it up here. This is solid enough for some wave-based stuff if they are getting buffs. Preferably, they're never getting buffs, and you've got total speed control. But if they ever do, it's fine. So yeah, this is more for Curse City faction wars. It's pretty okay. This lethal dose literally does nothing. In fact, let's do Incinerate at the same time. Literally does nothing. Like in theory, cracking roots could work if you ever fought anyone with Stone Skin. There's a couple of champs that can give themselves Stone Skin. These blessings literally do not work outside of arena. They literally do nothing. So they should have their own tier, probably F tiers, and physically impossible for them to do anything aside from give you the baseline stats any blessing gives you. Cruelty is another S tier blessing. This is reducing enemies' defense, more against champions, a little less against bosses, but it's phenomenal. Stacking it up, big damage increase in basically every fight. The longer the fight, the better, of course, but yeah, this is an amazing, amazing blessing. Polymorph, I'm going to put this... Okay, let's never put anything below these ones. Polymorph, I think, is really terrible as well. This obviously does work. You get debuffs, you can sheep the enemy. Usually it's a bad thing. This might be... To be fair, it might be somewhat useful on a really difficult, like, Cursed City or Faction War stage to sheep an enemy. Usually it's actually making your run worse, right? It is slowing you down. The enemy becomes a sheep. It makes the run take way longer. They come back at half health as well when they come out of sheep. And maybe they were almost dead before. It can be kind of bad. So this is a blessing that can actually often be a negative. Perhaps I'll put it at the bottom of niche. No, I'm going to say, realistically, no one is running this right now. This might change in future, right? If the new Faction War content is really difficult, this might change. We're very much bottom heavy on this tier list. Let's get some good ones. Brimstone, I'm going to put Brimstone at the top. I think for, Demon Lord, for Chimera, I do think, as you go further end game, it's a little less important, but my goodness, for so many players, and a lot of you watching are all different levels of the game, Brimstone does the same damage for a day 1 player as it does, a day 5,000 player. That's a lot of days. I don't think the game's been around for, what was that, 15 years or something? I don't know. But yeah, it's no, this is a great blessing. Really good against single target bosses. Again, can give you a big chunk of damage to burst through. Well worth using. Does it deserve to be at the top? I don't know, but let's put it up there. I'm going to put this one in the B tier as well. Survival Instinct. This gives you turn meter boosts when you've got debuffs. It's okay. You know, it's fine for cleansers. Again, I feel like it's a B tier. It's a decent blessing, but nothing too special. Crushing Rend, also S tier. This is the best damage blessing, but it needs, for high-level enemies, they need to be high-level. But at 6 stars, incredibly good. Couple of things to watch out for. There are ever more sources of ignore defense. Some champions will actually overcap ignore defense. So, for example, Trunda, on her A2, can get too much ignore defense, and actually, it's not worth running this versus running Nature's Wrath. So Trunda would typically run Nature's Wrath instead of Crushing Rend. Again, this blessing does need to be 6 star, but it is phenomenally powerful. I think it's just very difficult to get it, and it's not for every single champion, and it's only for high-level enemies where the ignore defense really scales up, but it is ridiculously, ridiculously strong where it gets going. I'm putting Brimstone higher because it's just more universally good, and it works from 1 star all the way up to 6 star as well for every level of player. This is very much an elite blessing for limited champions and limited people who have the 6 star. And Emergency Heal. This is the wrong icon. I put Emergency Heal in the A tier. This is a great blessing too. You heal when a shield you place breaks. Great for soloing stuff. For example, I run this on Artak with a Blood Shield accessory for soloing Ice Golem hard 10. And it's great. Gives them some extra healing, extra survivability. Really, really nice. Yeah, just a really good blessing for some extra healing to keep champions alive. Synergy with Blood Shield accessories gives anyone a shield. And it doesn't matter how big the shield is. In fact, Blood Shield's arguably better because then it's easier to break and get the heal. Excuse me. Boom. So there we go. There is my... I mean, we could rearrange these within the tier a little bit, I suppose, but that is my PvE tier list. Let me know what you think about that one. We'll jump over to PvP in a second. I'm just taking a quick glance. Have I made any obvious mistake? I don't think so. Yeah, S tier, these are the best blessings. You could rearrange the order. I don't really care. These are the best blessings for sure. These are the defining ones in PvE that you're looking to get that make a massive difference. A tier, these are really solid. They open up some unique dungeon strategies like Soul Reap, Phantom Touch for Fire Knight, Emergency Heal for solo stuff. The B tier are definitely a big step below, but they're good. They're quite nice, and you would run these on some champs, and they're quite nice. C tier, these all have, some of them have a good place. I'm gonna move this one higher because Faultless Defense actually has an important niche. The rest are quite niche. Yeah, these are all niche. I mean, we could be harsh and we could demote these two and say almost useless. I'll leave them up there for now. These 3 at the bottom are pretty bad, I'll be honest. And Chainbreaker is very niche. Yeah, they're niche. You might use them on some champs. They could be really nice on some champs. And then the D tier is like you're basically literally never using these ever on anyone. Or, well, you will actually, funny enough, you probably will use some of these a lot in PvE, but simply because they're so strong for PvP that you're not going to switch them for champions that are super strong everywhere. There we go. Great. Yeah, that looks good to me. Let's reset and let's come back with the Arena tier list. Okay, I have reset the list. Let's dive in. So this is for Arena, Classic, Tag, Live, and Siege now as well. They just updated, by the way, blessings like Incinerate to work now in Siege 2, which is actually phenomenally powerful. We'll come to it. Hero Soul, literally useless. You do more damage against bosses and their minions. Yeah, literally does nothing. Faultless Defense. Oh, let me think. I gotta think about that one. I'm gonna say maybe it's pretty rubbish. This is pretty I'm conflicted between, I'll leave it at the bottom of C for now. We might move it into the D tier. I'll be honest. It's pretty bad. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Maybe it's a little bit of use, a little bit of reflected damage. There might be some champs for whom there's no better option. So yeah, it doesn't do nothing. It's just mostly nothing. Soul Reap, I put Soul Reap in A. Soul Reap is decent on some champions. Like, I think it's particularly good on Marius, for instance. Really, really nice for him. And it also happens to be really good on him for, well, dungeon content as well. So it's great in a couple of ways. But yeah, it's fine. This is like your execute. You can execute low health enemies. It's particularly good on Marius because it can help him to land the execute on champions like Nice and Siegfried when they shapeshift, which is cool. Yeah, Life Harvest. Ooh, I'm going to put Life Harvest almost an S. I'll put it at the top of A. I think it's not quite as good as the S tier blessings, but this is phenomenal. And some of the S tier blessings are, you either wouldn't they're either, you wouldn't run them on everybody. Life Harvest is very generally good. This is you destroy HP and potentially get turn meter boosts when enemies are revived, which is very generally useful. Revivers are all over the place in Arena. Turn meter boost is universally useful. Destroying their HP is also really nifty as well. It's a great blessing. It's just some of the more specific blessings are probably a bit more powerful, but I'm a huge fan of Life Harvest. Chain Breaker. Okay, this is definitely much better than I'm going to put this in D for now. Chainbreaker is actually decent. It is niche. It is niche. You don't run it a ton, but there are specific champions. I mentioned Nice before as being a specific. I should touch on Nice. So I've mentioned him a couple of times. He is one of the best champs in Arena, and this is very specific, mind you. But when he flips to form, he doesn't want to load. When he flip-flops into form 2, he can cleanse himself and give himself counterattack and block damage that are protected. Ridiculously strong, but he's very vulnerable to crowd control. Like if he's stunned, whatever, he can't do anything anyway. Chainbreaker gives him a way to break free and makes him really annoying, and he's super powerful. He's super tanky, super fast, does crazy damage. Crowd control is his weakness, and Chainbreaker fixes that. I think it's a niche blessing, but in its niches, it can actually be very strong. I think it's one of the most underrated blessings, actually. Commanding Presence, I'll put it in the B tier. Like it's Epic's own. The thing about this is Intimidating Presence is so much better that, you would never run this ever on a legendary or mythical. You'd always run Intimidating Presence. It's literally a direct upgrade. But on your epic, it's fine. On your epics, it's good. Getting extra speed is usually what you're using it for, and that's good. From your aura, it's good. This one, useless. No one's using that. This one, useless. Miracle Heal, restoring destroyed HP. No one's using that. I'm going to put Lightning Cage in the S tier. I really do like Lightning Cage. This is particularly useful. What you have to understand now in 2025 is different from 2024, or at least, well, the first half of 2024. It's very different. We are now in a pinpoint meta. So the pinpoint set gives you that protection from polymorph, which means that debuffers, buff removers, and fast teams are a lot more powerful and a lot more prevalent. Lightning Orb or Lightning Cage and the lightning orbs it makes protect you from your debuffs being removed. This can be massive to protect a stone skin or whatever, block debuffs or block damage, anything like that. This can be absolutely huge to protect. This can be great for damage dealers. This can be great for tanky champions. It's very flexible. And very strong in the current meta. I would say it's probably the bottom of S tier, but it's a very strong blessing. That can be definitely worth considering on multiple types of champs. Intimidating Presence is, I think, probably the best blessing in Arena right now. This makes your aura stronger and your enemy's aura weaker. Why is this so strong? Well, you only need one per team, but you typically have to run, for live Arena at least, a couple of champs in this, otherwise it gets banned away. But a lot of fights in Arena come down to the speed race because pinpoint and fast champions right now are so insanely strong. It's quite difficult to go second. Going first is so important. This helps you go first because speed auras are huge. And this really ups their power and lowers the enemy's one. And going first can sometimes win you the fight just straight out. So I think Intimidating Presence is actually probably the most important blessing in Arena, particularly live Arena. It's the most important one. And trying to get some 6-star Intimidating Presence blessings is probably the biggest impact you can have. This one, realistically, I think no one's going to use it. Do we put this in D? I think we probably put this in D. You take less damage when you're debuffed, but if you're debuffed, you're probably just going to die. Okay, I mean, we should note that at least it does something. This one literally does. This needs to go to the bottom. It literally does nothing. That one's literally totally useless. At least these do something, but they're pretty terrible. You're never really using them. Heaven Cast, it's better than that. Heaven Cast is, again, your standard enough damage blessing. It's very flexible. It's very easy to use. Like I said, it's sort of your gold standard workhorse average blessing. Solid damage, easy to use, nothing spectacular. It's just your baseline for a decent blessing. It's good on everyone, no matter where their damage comes from. Whereas, let's say, Phantom Touch is better if you're attack-based, for example. It's fine. Neutralize. Ignore Poison Cloud. There's one champ in the game in Sensa that does Poison Cloud. That might go up in the future if they give more champs Poison Cloud. Right now, I'd say it's effectively entirely useless. At least there is one champ that does Poison Cloud, whereas you don't fight any bosses in PvP. We'll do that. Nourish. I'd put this in the C tier. Pretty bad. But, you know, you might run it on a champ with lots of continuous heals like a Senna. It might be fine. You'd rather have Intimidating Presence on Senna, obviously, but you know, you might be running this on her for Chimera and it'll be fine. It's okay. You know, it's not totally useless. It's not great, but it's pretty weak, but not totally useless. Nature's Wrath, I think, is pretty good. Maybe A or B or A or B. I'll put it in maybe the A tier. I think this is decent on champs that are landing debuffs. It's more common now. Maybe we'll put it at top of B for now. It's not as common as Life Harvest or Soul Reap. It's a good blessing, though. Yeah, if you're a champion doing debuffs, again, debuffs more powerful at the moment because of pinpoint. Obviously, you know, pinpoint champions are maybe a bit more debuff focused and a bit more less raw damage focused. It can be tough to have enough accuracy or to fit into teams. But yeah, it's good. Let's say a champion like Gergo the Augur, who can strip buffs, place freeze, and do good damage. Pretty good on him. Yeah. It does take time to ramp up. Yeah, it takes time to ramp up as well. I say it's pretty comparable to Heavencast. It's a bigger damage boost, but it's much more difficult to activate. I think B tier actually does fit pretty well. This was basically useless. We put this at the bottom of C tier. Makes your rares better, but rares in arena. Let's be real. Rares in arena is not happening. It's not happening. But it'd be good for some of those rares, but nobody's going to be using rares in PvP properly. Like once you're past the first couple of months, it's not happening. Put it in D tier. Cracking Roots, I would say this is niche, but it can be good. Cracking Roots, it was one of the funniest parts of my showcase. We went in on the test server, and I still wonder if it was bugged. It might possibly be bugged, but we tried out Modo, who does more damage to enemies under Stone Skin. We thought, obviously, this is a champ to destroy Stone Skin, and you give him Cracking Roots Blessing as well, and it's amazing. The hilarious thing is, one of the other content creators pointed this out, Modo's A2 does more damage to Stone Skin than his A3. It's shocking. It's actually so funny. His A2 actually does more damage to Stone Skin than his A3. I feel like this move is just bugged. Cracking Roots is very niche. There are a couple of champs that you run it on, but very rare. In order to do enough damage to break Stone Skin, you need either a blessing we're going to talk about later, or you can obviously remove it with buff strips 50-50, or you need to do absolutely insane damage. Siegfried the Nephilim is one of the only champs I can think of, because Siegfried does an illegal amount of damage. It's just that simple. Like especially his A3 does illegal damage. There's very few champions that do damage anywhere near that caliber. There's very few champions for whom Cracking Roots is worth it, and you'd only use it at a high blessing really as well. But it's super niche. It's extremely strong on Siegfried. If you got a Siegfried and you've got crazy gear and you've got a 6-star soul, man, consider that Cracking Roots. It might be quite possibly the best blessing for him. It's very good. Harmonic Impulse is probably, I would put it as C tier for now, just because there are more. They've added a few more True Fear champions to the game recently that are good, like Queen of Hearts. This lets you resist the True Fear. It's pretty darn weak. This arguably should be D tier, but I'm worried the D tier is getting a bit full. The C tier needs some love. So I'm gonna I'll put it in C tier. Super niche. But yeah, maybe for some champs it's okay. Like if you're up against a Queen of Hearts, Mad Hatter, and a Taurus or something, you know, you're like, oh, that's a lot of fears. Maybe it's all right. Phantom Touch, I'd put Phantom Touch in the B tier. Phantom Touch is decent. It's a decent damage dealer blessing, more single target damage. It's fine. The others will give you more damage and more AoE damage, which is a bit more valuable, but it's fine, especially for single target damage dealers. It's a decent chunk of single target damage. For attack-based damage mostly, it's easy to use. Everyone can use it because it's a rare blessing. It's fine. This one is niche. Dark Resolve, maybe? Is it Dark Resolve? It gives you more damage when people are dead. I think there's some potential for this for some champions. It's okay. Dark Resolve. Yeah, Dark Resolve. More damage per dead allies. The bonus is pretty low. The bonus is pretty low. So it's not something you're going to use much, but it has some niche benefit. Again, like that would be okay on Nice as well, right? Your team dies, he can finish them off. It's okay. Ward of the Fallen, I'm going to put in the A tier, not the S tier, but the A. I think this is a really good blessing on certain champs. Again, it really only works at 6-star. I mean, it's okay below that. This is particularly strong on champions like Rotus is perhaps one of the best examples, specifically for him, because it reduces the damage, but after it triggers his passive. So his passive will reduce damage to 50%. He can't be hit for more than 50% of his max HP. That happens first. So it means if I hit Rotus for like 2 hits for 100k damage each, Rotus will come in. His passive reduces that to, let's say he only has 60k HP, to 30k damage, 230k hits. That would still kill him because it's a double hit. Then Ward of the Fallen kicks in and reduces the damage further. So this effectively makes it that you physically cannot kill Rotus in 2 hits. You need at least 3. And that's very powerful. It is also just powerful in general. It can be, at 6-star, it's 30% damage reduction per stack. And then you start refreshing the stacks and doing damage when allies are dead. Below 6-star, it's a heck of a lot weaker. It's really there to make Plarium money, really. But it is very strong. It's very, very strong on like tanky champions like Taris, Rotus, that sort of stuff. It is very powerful on the right champ. Temporal Chains is very strong as well and more general. This is a very general blessing. You lower enemy speed, the more buffs they have. Very strong. And you can push their turn meter back. Dangerous against Marius. Marius will counterattack. It's very scary. So there is a warning with 6-star, and Marius is going to be in like every fight. Late game at least. Once people get Marius, he's like one of the best champs in the entire game for Arena. So he's going to be picked every single time, and everyone has him. He's sort of like Arbiter. Obviously a very different champ to Arbiter, but the same sort of, you're going to see him absolutely everywhere. And he really punishes 6-star Temporal Chains, but it is a very strong blessing. It's really, really good. I'll put it in A tier, which is maybe a bit harsh. Maybe it should be S tier. I might even put it above Life Harvest. It's a phenomenal blessing. It's very strong for buffs being so powerful. Lethal Dose. I'm going to put Lethal Dose in the A tier. I'm going to be generous. Lethal Dose is very strong. It makes your poisons do more damage. The problem is that there's not a lot, and almost none, no champs that can use this, but it is a really strong blessing. And for any champs with poisons, it's genuinely very good. Like, it really is. So you would run this on like Calvalax is super niche, maybe with the Teox. It's good. Nell, Blackteeth, the mythical is kind of bugged and a bit underpowered right now, but this would be god tier on her, obviously. So it is niche, but I want to highlight that it is actually extremely strong. In Siege, you can get bonuses to poisons as well. Nobody really uses it, but you could. Yeah, I think the problem with this is more so there's not good poison champions for Arena, but it is really good. I think it allows you to ignore resistance as well, which is nice. This is one to watch in the future. One of the problems is poison doesn't work against Stone Skin, but this is very strong. This is very strong at Supreme Kale. I've seen some fun Supreme Kale. I think I did a showcase on the channel a while ago. Supreme Kale with this blessing can just melt people. It's quite cool. Cruelty is very niche, but yeah, very niche. It's good. I don't know. It's sort of solid. Cruelty. You lower their defense. It's okay. People typically don't build crazy high defense in Arena. It's fine. It's not something you would specifically, I think, build for Arena. Cruelty is like, I'm putting it on my champs for PvE, and like, it's okay in Arena, but it's not doing anything special. I'm going to put it in C tier. Maybe it's a bit harsh. I'll put it in B tier. I'll be generous. I'll put it in B tier. Polymorph, S tier. I think that's the second best blessing for PvP in the game. I do think Intimidating Presence is probably more important in the speed meta, but Polymorph, particularly at 6-star, is very oppressive. Just a chance when you're debuffed or buff stripped, etc., to turn the enemy into a sheep. And being turned into a sheep is absolutely debilitating. They've got like, I think 170 speed or something. They're very slow. Maybe it's even lower, but they have a fixed, really slow speed. They can potentially be stuck in it for 2 turns. They come out of sheep with 0 turn meter, half HP, no buffs. It's rough. Polymorph is a game changer. It hard counters certain champions that are extremely strong, like Vulcanos. It's incredibly good. The reason it's not the top of S tier anymore is Pinpoint and Feral Set as well. Both give you ways to counter sheep. Intercept buff is very rare, but coming into the game more, which gives you a way to counter sheep. There's a couple of champs that are immune to sheep as well. Not many, but some. So yeah, Polymorph is not as strong as it was. They've sort of added ways to counter it, which I don't know. They also, I think they kind of fundamentally needed to make when you are sheeped not as horrible. I still feel like that is too strong, but there's no question that they have pseudo-nerfed Polymorph. I think it's still ridiculously good, but it's not as good as it was. It's also a blessing that becomes, I think, a lot stronger when you have multiple 6-star Polymorphs in the team. It's not quite as good. Like if you're going in with one 3-star Polymorph on your team, it's not that impactful. When you go in with 4 of them at 6-star, yeah, then you really start to feel it. Incinerate, this goes into the A tier for me. That's the 3rd best blessing, making HP burns do more damage. It also does turn meter pushback, which is dangerous like temporal chains, but burners are ridiculously strong in the meta. This is a good contrast to the poison blessing. Burn does extra damage to Stone Skin, so for ripping through Stone Skin, this is insane. And you have some very powerful burners like Gizmak, Sulfurion, Volcanos, that not only just champions that are extremely good at both placing and exploding burns and destroying Stone Skin. And also, like in Volcanos can solo an entire team easily with a high Incinerate blessing and 1 demon spawn ally, and he just sits there and they just fall over dead. It's incredibly strong. So yeah, Incinerate is absolutely nuts. This is like your go-to on any good burner. It's just phenomenal. Brimstone is like niche. It's okay. Brimstone is, it's not doing much, but, it will do a little bit, but it's there. It's not useless, but it's not great. I think Survival Instinct to me is sort of like a B tier. You get turn meter boost when you get debuffs. It's okay in like a cleanser or something. Really nothing special, but it's fine. Crushing Rend, I put this at the top of niche as well. Again, for 6-star blessings only, it is decent. It's going to give you 6% ignore defense. It's really nothing phenomenal. But, for champions like Marius or Siegfried that are absolutely broken in PvE as well, you might be running this on PvE champs and you're like, it's still good at 6-star for PvP. It gives you a bit more damage in that upfront nuke, a bit of ignore defense, and depending on how much ignore defense you're stacking, it's fine. Like you stack it with a Cat's Gaze, Helm Smasher proc. It can be good, but I think it is quite niche, and yeah, I mean, you could, in theory, also run it like at a lower rank on someone just hoping to one-shot people, but I think it's generally not as strong as the others, and it's more so crazy for PvE, and it carries over. Then Emergency Heal, again, is the wrong icon. This one is fine. It's probably more useful than these. Probably like around there. Again, for like a tanky champion, it's okay to try to survive. I would say at high-end arena, it's pretty hard to survive, and you're typically relying more on Lightning Cage or Polymorph at that point, or Word of the Fallen. But I think it's got some niche use. So yeah, there we go. I think that, let's take a quick gander. How does that look as the overall tier list for Arena? These are definitely like the most dominant blessings. I would say maybe, arguably, Lightning Cage is a little bit weaker. We could arguably move that to the top of A tier. In fact, will I? In fact, yes, I will. I'm going to move it to the top of A tier. I think that's fine. I think these 3 blessings are fight-defining. They are fight-defining blessings. You are fighting over Intimidating Presence to go first. Polymorph really defines the entire meta. Incinerate has really come in now as the pinpoint. Pinpoint and Feral, they're like, yes. Especially Pinpoint's like, yes, we can now use Incinerate, and it's obnoxiously strong. I think these 3 do define the game. The A tiers are all potentially very, very strong. Am I being too generous with Lethal Dose? I really do think the blessing is strong. I'm going to move it down for now. I'm going to move Lethal Dose down just because I'll move it up in the future if we do get good champions to use it. I think there's just very few champs that can actually use it. I'll put it at the top of B. It is, it's that awkward thing where they're sort of niche by definition, but yeah. I think it's fine. I think it's fine leaving it in B. It is very strong, but only a very few champions can use it, and they're not that strong in Arena, and Stone Skin's a problem. I think B is fine. I'm being generous, but that's fine. The A tiers are all incredibly strong blessings, big impact as well. The B tier are more mid blessings. they're okay. Nothing too crazy here, but it's like, it's a nice little bonus, but nothing too special. The C tier, yeah, they're very niche. Like they might literally do nothing in some fights or almost nothing. I do think the top three, Crushing Rend, Cracking Roots, and Chainbreaker, have the best potential for sure. Like we could potentially do another tier and move these things down. We possibly could. I'm being perhaps a bit generous, but that's okay. And then D tier are effectively almost useless. Like I think we could take, you know, these bottom 5, slap them down, and maybe move. We could do that. Will I do that? No, we'll leave it like this for now. I might change my mind later. But there you go, guys. That is my tier list for both Arena and PvE in Raid Shadow Legends. Let me know what you think. This is the 2025 update. Again, we could move things around the tiers a little bit, but I think that's fairly reflective of where we are going and what I'd be looking to get and the most powerful things. Guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.